What if the biggest threat to your career isn't AI, isn't artificial intelligence, but your inability to adapt to it? Today, we are talking with a leader who has spent decades, and I mean decades, shaping the future of technology, leadership, and workforce innovation. He's the president of WITI, one of the world's most influential tech leadership networks. This is not just a conversation about women in tech or workforce in tech. It's about the future of work, trust, and influence in an AI driven world. We're going to talk to David Leighton in three, two, one. Let's go.
No fluff, no hype, just the real deal. Wayne Altman's here, yeah, you know the drill. Talking business, talking shop, making moves non-stop. From e-com to hustle, straight talk, no props. Straight talk, no gimmicks, no lies. Hey, I break it down with the sharpest minds. Money moves, mindset, grind.
Anyone close to either one of us, Dave, knows how closely we keep in contact. I mean, my wife probably more than anybody knows that we talk on at least 3-4 times a week, probably at once or twice a day, that you and I talk about. But we really never discussed the origin of WITI, your back. Well, we discussed your background, but we have never really discussed. And I've always been curious about some of this stuff. What was the moment you realized that WITI needed to exist? And what problem were you trying to solve that you saw that other people did not see?
Well, I don't know if it was me, or my mom that had started it. We had I started working for her with our recruitment research firm in the 90s or the 80s when I was in college for a year selling clothes retail, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And we were growing that business. She had had women keep coming to her and just sharing these stories about getting passed over for promotions and, just disappointed that they didn't get something that they really were passionate about working on. So she had the idea to start WITI. Simultaneous to that, I had been really pushing to just turn our company more into a retained search firm. And I landed one of the top software companies, PC software companies. Actually, they weren't at the top. They were kind of up and coming back then. It was called Borland International, based in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And so I'm like, got them, learned about them when the earthquake happened up there. And then they had their offices in the parking lot, and they were the leaders in object-oriented programming. I had a few resumes on said object-oriented programming. I'm like, oh, they must be the place. And that's how I got in with them. And that was, PC software industry, the software wars, they called it, when it was really Borland, Lotus, Microsoft. And so I was heads down with that. She started WITI that had, she's like, I want to do this. I'm like, fine. I was like so slammed with this. I'm like, great. We brought the revenue in from there, helped fund WITI. Um, yeah, and it was just, it just grew. There were like certain points, 93, she had an event at Sun Microsystems. She thought there'd maybe be 20 to 30 people there. There were like over 350. They crammed into like this area they had. That was crazy. Then we did that had the first conference. Who, no electric registration, right? I mean, no like online registration. It was like run to the. Is anybody interested in coming to this? What's in the mail today? So right, or phone number or phone calls and this and that. But we definitely hit a nerve. And so as the software wars were going, and I worked with this guy Philippe Kahn, who went on to do a lot of big things. Um, she's like, "Oh, I rented out the conference, the Santa Clara Convention Center. We're having a conference." I'm like, "All right." And me and my brother just kind of jumped in to help. So that's some of the early stuff that started, right? That was, the Netscape browser out in 93. So a lot of that was just, just starting. That's when the web had started. You remember
So
the
this is
web?
all pre-internet stuff. This is all like we're dealing through maybe some email stuff like that, but this was not like websites. And because I took a peek at the earliest WITI website, and it was, I mean, you want to go back, way back machine, okay, that I was like in awe. It is really something to see if anybody is interested in that. But okay, so what are the things that you learned from that back then that you've kept, that you've still imparted, is still a part of WITI today?
Well, really just being about business, including everybody in WITI. WITI, Women in Technology International was always to include men. It wasn't just for women. It was about knowing that, as men and women, we may look at problem solving differently and use our innate skills to do that. And we both have great solutions to these things. So keeping that piece was very important. Just really the relationship and connection, staying at the leading edge of innovation and everything else, and just right relationship, well-being. Those were all core values within WITI that we certainly have to today, right? As WITI grew, kind of just started, the .com just started slowly then, the .com explosion. Um, Up till 20 or 2001, when there was kind of the crash followed by 9/11, and then just kind of the resetting of the what we know today as the internet. There were a lot of things, some are parallel with what's going on with AI today. But it was great the first several years, because all the things I learned when I'd work for Philippe or Benioff. I worked for Mark Benioff after Borland. He called me to help him with his group at Oracle, and then later went on to found Salesforce. No one cared. I was in more the retained search recruitment space. No one cared. Black, white, man, woman, could not care less. They just needed people that could do the job. Right. So, that's
Well, let me ask you this, because recently you guys made a shift. You've alluded to it. You made a shift from, it's started as Women in Technology International, and then it made us a shift to workforce, innovation, trust, and influence. And I'm kind of curious as what was the precipitating factor? What really pushed that over the edge? What made you think, okay, now we can evolve into something that isn't what it I mean, what was that change? What was the precipitating factor of making that change?
well, it was really once I kind of came back, and I'd been in and out of WITI over the years, helping my mom whenever she needed something, of course, but I always had Criterion Research and then other startups I had in the security and web space. It would be to, as one thing we did early on too was we helped the same year we started WITI, they started the glass ceiling, uh, the glass ceiling commission under the first President Bush, and then it kind of carried through Clinton. That was a 4-year study to look at, what's, why or what, if we didn't want to compete globally, how we got to maximize all of our people. And if half the workforce women, and there's only 4 to 5% in management and upper management roles, well, many other companies have much better numbers. How are we going to compete globally? So they started that. We had the first conference in '95. They released the report later that year, and then they had reached out to us. One of the things when I came back, kind of just before the pandemic, and then we had kind of shifted everything to virtual for our 26th annual conference. After that, Renee Redwood, who's yeah, still a member, an amazing lady. She was just talking about how many of these companies that drove her to go in to fix something because maybe there was a lawsuit about discrimination or things like that, all these companies were just doing better than ever. They had better employee retention. So it's like we looked at that like, all right, well, why don't we do the glass ceiling 2.0 report, right? They took, they kind of we'd worked with them then. They wanted somebody to take it on. This is 20 years later. I'm like, it's time for an update. We had a whole initiative to look at those numbers and really what we suspected, the HR, numbers driven programs, how they were approaching it were ineffective, were alienating people, and just were not helping get the numbers. Because after we did the report, it's like the numbers, move this much, right? So it's like, you know what? First thing we got to do, we got to figure out a way to just stop talking. If we're going to deal with a company, let's help them in business initiatives, right? I think another thing for the early WITI was have it be very business focused. So we did so yeah, and it ended up, I had never thought about changing what the words meant. We always wanted to be witty because we just kept getting pigeonholed to the groups and the companies that were
Well, you
just
have all this equity in a name. You have all this goodwill, all of this. I mean, and only that part of it totally made sense to me.
right.
You don't just Xerox, Kleenex. You've got a name that everyone in the business world it recognizes, knows, and understands, and that's what got me curious. You kept WITI, WITI. You kept that. You changed the meaning of some of the words, I guess, you know what I mean? But I didn't detect a change in direction. It is always meant to me. I've been in many, many, many WITI meetings. You have some of the most impressive people that belong and not only belong to WITI, but regularly participate in this group like think tank. To me, it's always felt like a think tank
Right.
where you invite the most eclectic and I won't say random. They're not 100% not random, but you have people in those rooms discussing ideas that the WEF does not have impressive people that are doing that. I mean, as I'm noticing. All right, look, I want to switch. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit because one of the things I know about you personally is you've spent a great number of years. Your experience is really, if I could, you talk about pigeonholing, if I could like zero in on what it is you're really really good at, it's helping people with their careers, helping people go to the next level, or finding where they actually belong as far as gaining traction in their careers. I wrote down some notes. Career accelerator advisor is kind of how I would describe that. Um, what exactly um, what exactly is a career accelerator, I guess, and what outcomes do you help people achieve? What are your goals for helping someone?
Well, one thing I saw, as the web started, right, and I was, when I landed Borland as a client, had to find like these impossible technical people. Before that, it was like HP Labs, aerospace companies. We had to get creative on how you even identify who these people are. I cared less about is there an open job than finding the people that had the expertise that I knew my clients, if they were growing, you're gonna either hire them now, hire them in 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So, when LinkedIn came out, I'm like, oh, there's no way anybody's putting all their information on LinkedIn. Like I was like, doing all sorts of creative, semi-legal things to get names of people. Once LinkedIn came out, I'm like, there's no possible way everybody's putting their info up. Then I start getting requests from people who I killed myself to even find their name. I'm like, oh geez, that business is on hold for a while. now kind of flip to where we are now.
Let me hold
There's
on. Let me interrupt you 1 second, because if there's anyone I know that is more of an expert on how LinkedIn works and how to use LinkedIn, that individual doesn't exist. It is David Leighton. I have watched you show people things about how LinkedIn works or how to use LinkedIn. Okay, and it's hilarious to me that you thought that LinkedIn was going. You are not the only one, but it is very funny to hear you say that, oh, no one's going to put their information on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's going to flop or whatever. And now you being probably not probably, you are the go-to expert on how LinkedIn actually works and how to utilize it best. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I had to
that's
say
right.
that.
No, and it's sad because LinkedIn, it's kind of turned on and off. I think people see, oh, like it's a higher end job board or something. It's not that. People use it for that. But when you can click on a company and then figure out every employee that works there and what college they went to, these are just ways. Like, I don't think people, like, you had to have that. I was like, had encyclopedia books called the Corp Tech Directory. I'd go through to look for companies that made software, did this or do that. Now, like, oh my God. So it's really about being proactive. And one thing that kind of had me start the Career Accelerator Advisor program was, we had so many of our members that were just frustrated. They're looking for jobs, sending in resumes, applications, tens, 20s, hundreds of companies, auto replies, may get it. It's just such a ridiculous. I'm sure people, everybody knows people that have gone through this, and it's really BS. Um,
Well, my next
it's
question
just
actually is, um, what are the give me some common bottlenecks for that. I mean, what are stopping people from actually accelerating in their career, and how do people break through those struggles in trying to find the next position or the next management or whatever? What are some of the tips that you would give them?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think some of the bottlenecks are just, AI on the side of how companies are using it to like knock candidates out, push people through their ATS systems. That's a disaster. People not being educated on AI and how to use it for research, what the next job is, right? They've been at a company forever, they're just using Copilot. Then they get laid off. They don't really have a view on all the other amazing tools available. So I think that one thing, and now you can automate, the ATS process, applicant tracking system, applying system, right? So a company puts up a job, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that have put in there. Some are real people, some are bots, some are qualified, some are not qualified. Meanwhile, there's the perfect person out there, but now it's like there's 500 people around it. The recruiters, may not have the breadth of experience to spot the gold. They're depending on AI, when in fact, as the candidate, number one, it's almost like now, once there's a job, it's too late. Like my philosophy is, don't look for a job, look for a company and look for an industry. The companies that are growing, they're going to be hiring people, right? How you can contribute. Sometimes it's meeting you or reading your article or something. It's to say, oh man, we need that. Let's open up a rec, rather than, oh, let's put this out and then everything, and then just have the abundance of people, right? And then just interviewing and how you can research companies and questions to ask and due diligence on the person. Because another thing that's happening now too, in many states they have to send a response, anybody that fills out the ATS or applies, so then they're getting hammered with rejection letters. Oh, this company doesn't want me, I got a rejection letter. No, there's probably a hiring manager there who's like killing himself for an extra 10 hours a week because the incompetent systems internally can't find you who sent in the resume. It just wasn't included 1,000 people. So it's
You know,
really up to, right. So
oh,
how do you
sorry. But
get to the
one
first
of the
step?
happy byproducts, byproducts of this AI and the problem that you're illuminating right now is there has been a massive shift in the amount of people that are starting their own businesses. I mean, people that are very competent people that would have had a great job, a great career with other companies are being forced to, start their own thing. And that kind of has helped Straight Talk Commerce because we become a source for those people on, hey, this is how this works. This is how if you're interested in starting your own thing. So the amount of job creation that AI has actually produced has been surprising to a lot of people.
Right. I mean, when you think about when the web started in like the mid 2000s, and you could spin up a website, make some side cash on whatever you're doing. It's only gotten better and better. Now with AI, it's like you could have employees, agents working for you, right? With that are just there to, I mean, there's just so many different angles to all that.
What's the
Right. So,
difference? I'm sorry, Dave. What's the difference between someone who is what someone that's like stuck in their career, right? And someone that is actually using this system. I mean, what are they doing differently? What's going on that there are people that are very successful in the current system that we have going on. They're zooming up in their career, and the person that is stuck and just can't get any traction. What do you think the main difference is?
well, look, I think people have different backgrounds. There could be many explanations for the person moving up, right? And depending on what they do, there could be several elements, but I think the people that are stuck and the person that where they may have they cut a division of the company and everybody got laid off. Now, what percentage is finding a job and flourishing versus who's on their 300th admission for through an ATS system and not getting callbacks or just having, one and out interviews. I think it is just the creativity, right? I mean, if everybody's doing X, why do you want to do X too? You better look at Y and Z,
So they're being
right?
a little more innovative, you would say. They're being
Yeah,
a little more creative in how they're going about locating their next opportunity.
you got to look at conferences, you got to look at industries, you got to look at where's the money going, right? We have our linked SV session every month that we do with linked SV. Where did the money go last month? Who got all the investment? Well, the company just got $20 million investment. Guess what? They're going to be hiring. Don't wait for them to put a job posting up so I can see if it's right for me. No, you know what you can do in that for that company, for that industry. Figure out how to start connecting with the right people. Not, oh, I'm looking for a job. Do you want to connect? Now you just put yourself in the group of 100 other people that hit that person up with the same message. But it's more, hey, I just started using Notebook LM. Have you seen this? I did an infographic for you about that merger you guys did last week and the good and the bad about it or something. Right now, it's like, wow, this person studied our company. I wonder if they might be open to coming and working here.
Right.
Right. I mean, you have to just get.
Yeah. Do you think that the traditional career ladder, let me start this question over again. Do you think that the traditional career ladder is a dead concept, or do you think something is replacing it? What's going on here?
I don't think it's 100% dead. I think there's certainly still places you can approach that, but I just think you need to be staying ahead on top of innovation, right? We do a quantum computing session every month at WITI, and it's really just to talk about like who are the companies, who are the players, who are the investors, what's going on, right? Quantum computing's now being powered by AI is going to continue to grow, so you really have to. And that's the way I'd approach it for my search stuff, right? It's like, I want to stay on top of things and know who's doing what in the industries that are going to be out there where things are leading, right? I think AI, coming back from CES a few weeks ago, yeah, there was a lot of great AI stuff for sure. talking to many of my colleagues I hadn't seen for a while. Oh, do you use AI? Oh yeah, I use Copilot. Oh yeah, I use ChatGPT. Okay, but have you gone deep and are you shifting the way you're thinking and problem solving? Right. And I think this is, companies are going to be leaner and meaner, and they're going to make sure they have people that are going to be able to amplify themselves, right, and stay current. And many companies don't even know they need that yet. It's up to them. It's like it's up to the people to position themselves to educate, right?
Look, we just did a podcast on AI when it comes to business. And, one of the things that I would like to see, or I in the podcast I was talking about, is you need to refine your system, get a good system working. As flawless as you possibly can, and then stack AI on top of that system. You are never going to find AI that's going to clean up a faulty system. You human beings need to make a good system, stack AI on top of that, and elevate how quickly you can work the system. But yeah, I was wondering that we were going to talk about we are going to talk about your trip to CES. I know that you go every year. In the last couple years, it's been pretty AI heavy. Is that the impression that I'm getting?
Definitely. Although I think this year it was more like practical uses for it and how you can make money with all these cool tools we saw last year, right? Um, yeah, but there was a lot of both. CES is like a monster show. And I think too, and then I spoke at AI4 in August. So now it's like with these conferences that are once a year, it's like now now there's like 3 years in every year with how fast innovation's going. So, just I really think, and I had a talk with a guy from who works for the Koch brothers and one of their oil play, something manufacturing out in I think this guy was in North Carolina or maybe South Carolina, somewhere out that way. And he's like, we just talked, and he used to work on rigs, and then he started getting interested in AI on his own, and now he's really starting to push innovation there, right? So it's like what I think we need to see, and I think all the listeners, if you do work for big companies and they're not giving you access to the what's going on with AI and being able to use some of these tools, dig into it, watch this show, research other things, because it's really about the humans that are the domain expert, have the domain expertise in different, industries, job titles, whatever, figuring out how they can apply AI, then giving feedback to the company rather than here, right, IT or whoever making these decisions, we're going to use this model. You guys figure out how to use it for what you're doing. And I just think that's ass backwards for how they could get
Yeah.
maximum use. Certainly, use ChatGPT for the first time. You're like, oh my God, that's great. But, some of these other things are limiting. Yeah. And I feel like, especially, in some of the other industries, I have my other company, Stone AI, where we're all about storytelling and story first
We are
and
absolutely going to get into Stone AI. Okay.
yeah.
That is
Well,
the next thing we're going to talk about. I noticed the icon in the corner. I noticed the background that you're using. I am dying to ask you about Stone AI. Tell me, what is Stone AI? What are you doing? And, tell me the story of it.
sure. Well, Stone AI Studios, visceral storytelling with IP protection and tracking. It's all about storytelling, Wayne, right? Whether it's, like our upcoming show we're working on for History Channel, where they're telling stories on, some of the greatest machines throughout history, to if a brand wants to communicate their product to a market and educate them. We started Stone AI. I met my partner Evan B. Stone probably a little over a year ago when he was started participating in some of my AI sessions. And as we talked about what he was doing, I'm like, wow. And then he's like, I need help, or I just need someone to help me. It's like out of control now. And what he was doing, he was a lead editor at TMZ when ChatGPT was just released. And like me, he dove in, head first, and really just started using AI, ChatGPT. I mean, obviously it's evolved to Gemini, Claude, a million other things out there, to see how he could automate his workflow for everything from pre-production, ideas, script, that type of thing, through the creating of the movie and or TV show or documentary. We do a lot in the unscripted space, to post-production, right?
Dave,
So
my audience needs to understand something. And we use artificial intelligence. We use Flow. We use Grok. We use Nano Banana. Everyone familiar with the Straight Talk Commerce podcast knows that I love to story tell. I love to weave into my podcast these snippets and give you a visualization. And I use AI to do that, a visualization of what the theme is, what I'm talking about. The difference between Stone, the things that I have seen coming out of Stone AI, and what I am doing, what the tools available to me are, is night and day. I'm sitting over here with rocks and sticks. You guys are operating on an entirely different level.
yes, we are. No, I'm kidding. Right. And look, it's what we spent, probably 20,000 hours developing, that we call our cinematographer trained AI layer, right? So that sits on top of any, we could use VO3, we could use Sora, whatever the next thing will be, to power to tell our stories. And what the cinematographer trained AI layer does is it gets in, it's like amazing all the things that go in to each second of a video: emotion, character locking, visual locking on everything. Anytime we build a character, maybe for just a 2-minute commercial, we're doing a 1-minute commercial, there's pages that go into the background of that character that really bring out the authenticity that you need with AI. And a lot of it's through just Evan's lens, from being a filmmaker since as long as he can remember. His dad was an Academy Award winning director.
What are the
So it's
constraints? Well, because I am constrained to 8-second clips. If I use Sona, if I mean not Sona, if I use Flow
so
or Nano Banana or Grok or any of these others, Grok may give me 12 seconds, but everybody else it's 8 seconds, and I'm paying for these services, by the way. These are not this isn't a free sample of AI. I'm actually spending money. The continuity is bad. Everyone knows, you go on YouTube, you can see all the BS AI you could possibly want to see. Okay. It looks horrific. And you guys are somehow, and I'm hoping that you'll give me a clip to show over this part of the interview, the things that you are able to accomplish with Stone AI, it is night and day. It has blown me away.
thank you. Yeah, look, my partner Evan B. Stone, he's just, with his years of filmmaking, right? Everything from, you know, editor at TMZ, cameraman on Naked and Afraid, 10 years at Expedition Unknown, and just finding story and things. It's really like we downloaded his brain into an AI model that now allows him to, just allows our system to kind of add his brain to all of this stuff, right? So it's hard to
Actual AI
just
built by cinematographers, people that are instead of a bunch of computer geeks banging away on a keyboard, kind of trying to imagine what this is actually. Now you've got people that are actually in the storytelling business, the cinematographers, the directors, the actors, all of those things kind of putting in there. Is that the difference, you think?
Well, I just,
Somebody with that
yeah, I mean, right,
experience.
yeah. No, look, it's the same thing that we talked about earlier, right? The companies, here's technology, go use it. Rather than you're the experts, now we're going to empower you with these tools.
Right.
Do what you do best, right? I think in Hollywood, there's some people that kind of get AI, producers, directors. Wow, now that shot I didn't even think of because it would have cost too much, or wasn't even physically possible. We can do for them. And some people are, no, AI, they're getting misinformation. And one of our top things as Stone AI is to empower the creatives. Like we're filmmaker first and story first. So we're bringing on like the top creatives to help just help expand what they can do and think behind their wildest dreams of what's possible.
Well, I
And
think
then when
that
you look,
that's where how you resolve the friction. And I've said that from very beginning. The reticence to use artificial intelligence that you are hearing. We live very close to Hollywood. We know a lot of people that are in entertainment, and the opposition in WITI, a lot of the groups where you would hear people talk about this. The way that you reduce that friction is by involvement, giving someone the opportunity to actually use it to express themselves, as opposed to feeling victimized by it. The same in the music industry when you've got Zudio, Suno, all of these music type AI. The moment you place a AI tool in the hands of a true musician, someone that is a practiced musician, they get it, and then the friction falls away.
totally right. So right. I mean, I think music and what goes on, and if you think of the entertainment industry, there's a wide range of people being affected by
Right.
AI, right? But just like in Harrison's book, I know you've had Harrison on the show before, right? I think his
Yeah.
first chapters, about when electricity came, right? Or when we moved to automobiles or the
Harrison
horse, right?
Painter, Harrison Painter and I have had many debates, one of which is epic and got a lot of views. I mean, this podcast, it was one of the most talked about interviews, or debates on AI. You're exactly right. He does go into that, and he was very smart about it. He kind of predicted that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Once you've put it in the hands of the creators, once the people that are actually of a creative uh, bent have access to that tool, and it allows people that were never creators before the same kind of playing field, that's when the friction falls away. Now, the doomsday part of me says that's the tipping point. That's when we all go straight to, because now we're AI's in everything. We can't now we can't get away from it.
Right. And that's why the AI overlords will be coming for you first as they take
No.
over.
I'm the captain of. I'm going to be punishing all of you that brought this on us.
No,
And
but
I
look,
look
right?
forward to that.
That's like, I'm going to come work for your company. I refuse to use a computer,
Yeah. No,
right?
listen, no doubt about it. But it's also like the computer is, you can't do anything without the computer anymore. Our children can't remember a phone number. We cannot, sit quietly and do absolutely nothing anymore. We've got a phone in our hand. And I really do think that it's caused an abrasiveness, with people that I don't know how we get away from. I don't know how we can get out of this abrasiveness, but especially between political parties, but it does not just political parties.
Right. Yeah. And look, I think we have to shift the teaching. We have to have other ways for people to learn that are more straightforward. Um,
Well,
right. I think that, right. I mean, just think of all the things we learned during the AI think tanks and some of these other things. You can jump on YouTube and learn things.
do
There
you think
has
that
to be,
AI is moving faster than people can adapt? I mean, how well do you think we're adapting to this right now? Give it a grade, A being a very good, and a D, F. I mean, what grade would you give humanity for the way we're adapting to an AI world?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think some do it better than others. I think back to like the textbooks I had when I was in school that were like so old, right? And now, and now they're
Yeah.
replacing those. I mean, at least with when the pandemic happened and things were shut down, they did do a big push out to make sure everybody had access to laptops and internet. But many parts of the world, including in the US, there is no internet and no access, right, or access to accessibility. So, and I don't know that the schools can shift that quickly. I know with colleges, you're going to go to a 4-year college now and go into debt hundreds of thousands of dollars when you can, probably, have get the same information and more targeted information in a year. So I think that stuff's going to change, right? And then we look at the criteria for companies hiring people. Does the person need to have a BS or an MS or PhD? Or is it, how were they scrappy during these times and how did they figure out how to use things, right? Because it's really about critical thinking and creativity.
Well, my biggest beef with AI has always been that AI curates the information, it never creates the information. In other words, you can use AI very, very effectively in curating or massaging a story, whatever you want to tell a population. What you cannot use AI for is in the creation of original thought. Everything that AI is has available to it is already here. It just curates it, it massages it into something that that appears new to other people. That's always been my real problem, as far as AI. But do you think that do you think it creates more opportunities than it does disruption?
Definitely. And I don't agree with your earlier points because, yes, it's not sentient, but I can use it as a way to expand what I'm thinking in my head, right? Or ideas I want to push forward. So while it's not thinking on its own, it is pulling all this information. I can then use that as my superpower to expand what I'm doing,
Yeah, but Dave, that's
right?
you doing
So,
that. That's not AI doing that.
right,
What I'm
right,
saying
but
is
it's me using tools.
you're using AI to curate the information you already have, and then you can
Right,
add on top of that with your own original thought. But that's not AI doing that.
right.
That is
Well,
still
but
the
then
human
I'm
being.
turning. Right. No, it is. Right. But it's a combination, right? So it's right. It's humans first in our critical thinking and our creativity and how we're going to use these things, right? Just because I own a chainsaw and I have a big piece of wood in front of me, you've seen those guys or ice or
Yeah,
whatever they do, creating those sculptures.
sure.
You and me, we're gonna, that's gonna look
Cut our
ugly.
arm off.
Right? The
Don't do
person will have the
that.
exact same person will have the exact same piece of equipment. They're gonna create something amazing, right? So I think AI can be looked at the same way. We have to critically think about how we're going to use it to expand what we do. But
Yeah,
I
but
think
no,
that's
that's
the
my point. Listen, you got a guy in North Carolina right now today that is using AI and CRISPR, which is a gene manipulation. It allows you to snip it out of DNA, different things. You have a guy with no training, no background whatsoever, making flaming blue dogs, mastiffs, giant mastiffs. That's kind of my problem here. Yeah, and I look, I'm not saying that it's all like that. It's not all like that. But it does level the playing field for people with either ignorant or at the very least uh malevolent intentions.
It's another tool, right? They use fertilizer to create bombs, right? It's right. I mean, there's all these. How can we amplify? Use these tools to amplify what we're doing, and that's up to the humans to be critical. And it's up to have critical thinking and to creativity. It's up to the schools to teach the young people about critical thinking. Right now, you have to shift. Right? I mean, there were protests when the calculator came out, when this came out, when that came out. We just have to shift how we're. This train has left the station. Everybody.
You're right. Hence the doomsday minute. And that is exactly why there's a doomsday minute. And look, look, if you could redesign leadership education from scratch, if you could redesign any education really from scratch, how would you what would you teach first? Because this is kind of a leading question, but what would you start with?
What would I start with? I would human connection, critical thinking, um, learning without AI, right? Learning without a computer, right? And just spend time on a certain amount of time on some of the things as a human, right? And
For
just
me, it would be
interest in going
ethics.
outside and playing sports, ethics, of course,
Yeah.
for sure, right? And right, and those are things that are important, but then you have to kind of shift. Now you have these tools. Let me teach you how to use them correctly, or in a way that are ethically okay. But then how you can. And Wayne, this is the call I have to take.
No problem. Hey,
I
we'll
hold
pause. We'll pause. Just pause for a second. Ooh. All right, Dave. Look, I to wrap up this interview, and thank you very much for coming and doing this and having a conversation with us.
having
Um,
me.
what I want to end with this: what should companies be doing? Whether it's differently or it's the same thing, what should companies do to build high performing, inclusive cultures that actually drive results? And I want you to include AI in this as well, because if AI is a part of it, then it needs to be included in this. But what should companies right now in 2026 be doing, either differently or the same, to be more, I guess, inclusive, but really results driven?
Right. I think support their people. Make sure there's facilities in place like a WITI membership or other opportunities to learn and grow. That'll be good for them. That'll be good for the companies. Um, Look, I think everybody has to go back to work thing at some companies. I think it's depending on the role, there's got to be some flexibility. And you want the best people getting stuff out. Some people need to be in the office every day. That's the way they work. Some people, their heads down in their computer, they're never talking to anybody anyway. So do I want them sitting on 2 hours commuting back and forth to work when they could be working? I think there's some innovation there that needs to happen and can happen for the companies that want to stay ahead and want to attract and keep the best people. And communication, right? It's just about communication. It's, HR is turned into, in a lot of companies, you don't want to have you want to go HR with a problem. In many cases, you're going to be gone, right? So how can you have space to get support from fellow employees, people in the industry, people you meet through your communities to get through things? As an example, one of our members, she's a amazing woman, works at a biotech company, fairly young company. She got accepted to Wharton for her MBA program. She'd have to miss, I think, 7 Fridays or 10 Fridays this year to be able to go to school and not work that day. They said no.
That's crazy. That is absolutely insane.
because we've never done it before. That's like so insane. Of course, first of all, this woman, if they gave her that, you'd have to pull her out of there kicking and screaming for her ever to leave, right? And it's like, these are the type of dumb decisions that continue to happen with this broken recruitment systems, with all this stuff. And it happened in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Now with AI, it's just out of control, you know, and it's just like half of
Any
our
business
members.
owner, and look, this if you missed last week's Straight Talk Commerce podcast, it was all about incentives. It was all about keeping the best people. It was all about, you know, going to the next level, and what the government, what the actual federal government could do to get better paying jobs in the United States and do quickly. And hear that story. It is absolutely antithetical to my last episode. That business owner deserves whatever comes their way negatively for making a decision like that. You just
I think
muted.
it's just, I think it's just, I mean, it's sad that that companies are not yeah, just, you know, they may not be thinking 2 steps ahead and transitioning fast enough to this world. And look, and I just think it's you know, you've seen that that post I have on my LinkedIn somewhere, right? I forgot who to credit to. I didn't create it, but it just showed the largest website slash companies from, I think, you know, 96 to 2000, you know, to 2020 or something. But some of those companies, how could this company ever be gone? Gone. Right?
Making decisions making decisions like that. That is not
right.
a good business decision. And making decisions like that, thinking that you're going to have to accommodate everyone in your business. So what? So what? If you have, if that's the accommodation that you don't want to make for people, you deserve whatever befalls you. That's that to me, it just blows my mind. All right, Dave. Look, man, I definitely appreciate you coming back and talking to me. We're going to do this again. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking, you know, we'll do this a couple times a year. See what's new with you. I love you. I definitely appreciate it, man.
Okay, brother. I look forward to the next one, and always watching the Straight Talk Commerce and the Doomsday Minute.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you.
No fluff, no hype, just the real deal. Wayne Altman's here, yeah, you know the drill. Talking business, talking shop, making moves non-stop. From e-com to hustle, straight talk, no props. Straight talk, no gimmicks, no lies. Hey, I break it down with the sharpest minds. Money moves, mindset, grind. If you're ready to win, then tune in live. Big names, big games, all the lessons they bring. From Jelly Belly to AA Kings. From the startup grind to the top tier pros. We cracked the code, now here we go. Straight talk, commerce, getting the know. Wayne Altman, let's start the show.